Good morning and welcome to Get Enlightened with me, Lauren Scott. I'm laughing because I'm sitting out here with Kaley, my massage therapist who has the most interesting story. And I was just telling her about my pet crow. And as soon as I started recording, my crow, or a crow, started cawing.
It's your crow. They're all your crows.
They are. Anyhow, welcome to the show, Kaley.
Thank you.
She doesn't want me to say her last name. Put it just a little bit closer to you. Yeah, there you go. So me and Kaley met, I don't know, has it been 2 years?
I think so. Yeah.
2 years ago, because she was doing massage therapist. She's my massage therapist, and now we're friends too.
And we didn't realize we had friends in common.
Yeah, no, this is actually a funny story. So she does my massage, and the next night I go to Paige's. Y'all know Porch Time with Paige. Paige's house for I don't know. It was her birthday party, right? Mm-hmm. For her birthday party, and I had just told my husband, like, "Oh my God, you have to go and get a massage from the new massage lady. She's so good." And then there you were.
There I was.
And you were like, "Hey, how did you like your massage?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it is you."
And I was thinking during the massage, I was like, "Oh man, I bet she would get along really well with Paige. I should introduce them."
Yeah, she's like, "These two weirdos would get along great."
And they've known each other for years.
And we've known each other for years. And we're doing the podcast. She had no clue that was happening. So she was just supposed to be in the circle of trust. But anyhow, Kaley grew up as a missionary. What year did you?
Missionary kid, yeah.
What year did you, how old were you when you moved over?
I was 8.
8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So you grew up in the church before that?
Yes.
What church? What kind of church?
Baptist.
Like Southern Baptist?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just decided that they wanted to go in the missionary lifestyle.
Yes.
Ooh, tell us about it.
So my parents were youth ministers, worship pastors until I was 8, and we moved around doing that a bit. And then when I was 8, they just kind of came to me one day and were like, "Hey, in 2 weeks we're selling everything and we are going to train to be missionaries, and we'll be in a place called Uganda in 3 months," or something like that. And so it was a huge culture shock. I had grown up in a very tiny, very white town, mm-hmm. and I had never actually even met a black person before. Wow. So it was beyond culture shock. You know, I didn't know the language. I didn't know what the things they were eating were foreign to me. It was really hard. Me and my brother both lost like 12 pounds as soon as we got there. There's a lot of sickness. And so, yeah, it was just hard. It's just a different feel. There's, you know, a lot more witchcraft. The spiritual world is much more real over there. And so, I do think that shaped the way I grew up and, the way I see the world, and I'm thankful for it. And, it made me who I am, but I don't know if I would necessarily live there with my kids.
And you met your husband while you were doing missionary work. So you were over there from the age of 8 to what age?
We came back when I was, I think, 17.
Wow. So literally like pretty much your whole childhood and young adulthood.
Mm-hmm. And then I graduated from Cleburne High School, and then
culture shock all in itself coming back from Rwanda, right?
Uganda.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why I always say Rwanda. I don't know why.
They're right by each other.
To Cleburne.
Yes. It was, very big culture shock. I had been at a boarding school for 3 or 4 years before that. 3 years. In Kenya. It was a very Christian boarding, very rigid, very highly academic international boarding school. Mm-hmm. And so, going back to Cleburne was a lot more people. Academically, it was very easy. But, it was just
country in a totally different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not strict morally like I had been. So, I think when we moved back, we kind of moved back abruptly and left all of our stuff there. That was kind of a common theme of my childhood. But I think I had.
Was that because of the war?
No, just family stuff. Oh, okay. My brother was going to college, and anyway, my parents just decided that they were going to stay. And then we enrolled in school, and I started Cleburne High School with 3 long dresses. It was hard.
Wow.
So it was hard to fit in there for a while.
And that was what, your senior year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah. And
it's already hard to fit in coming into a new school anyways, but coming in from a school from a totally different way of life and country and Christian, like super Christian,
mm-hmm.
to Cleburne, small little
people
country.
Getting taken out, drug busted, and gang violence and stuff. It was interesting. So I think that kind of the culture shock of that really scared me. And then I looked back into doing missions for college, which is how I met my husband, through a college international program.
Oh, okay.
So you train in the States to go to really hard third world countries,
mm-hmm.
dangerous places. So you do some pretty rigorous training. And then we were both in Sudan before it became South Sudan. And regular Sudan.
So one of the things that I loved about you, and I think that we clicked on immediately, is that you understood when I was talking about traveling to third world countries like mm-hmm. Haiti and Bangladesh, and what I was seeing and what you were saying. I love, like, my massages are never quiet. We're always talking
I feel bad.
About all kinds of things. And so I just think it's so important because it is hard to find people who have experience, especially third world countries. People don't just want to be going over to Haiti for their vacation or even Bangladesh for that matter. So, it's hard to, here in the States, find people that are on the same level of what you've seen because mm-hmm. it is completely different.
Yeah. It's a lot more, third world countries are a lot more complicated than people would give them credit for, I think, in the States.
Yeah. And I don't know about you. And this would be an interesting perspective, how you thought about it when you went over there as a child and then how you thought about it when you went over there as an adult. So coming back from those places because I did missionary work with Food for the Hungry. Mm-hmm. I was a celebrity liaison. So I always had to kind of shut myself off for like a month coming back from a trip like that because it was really hard for me to see how much we take for granted over here in the States. Yeah. And yet how happy they are with the simplicity of their lives over there because they don't know any different. Mm-hmm. And so how was that for you? And answer that. I would like to hear if you remember how you felt, because even as a child, I think that, you're going from having the snap of a finger and something being delivered to watching people kill their own food and then cook it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's just it's a culture shock.
Pace, yeah.
It's a culture shock. So what was the difference for you as a child? And then what was the difference for you when you went as a young adult?
As a child, I think I very much had white savior complex being a missionary. Mm-hmm. We were gonna go and save these people, and they're these poor third world countries. They need our help, and mm-hmm. As a full grown adult, things are not as simple as they seem, and but there are definitely things that I've taken from their culture that I still use in my life today, things that I love about their culture that I wish we had here. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot here that I am so, so thankful for and feel so blessed to have, and the safety and,
toilets.
Yeah, toilets, good food, I'm tired of eating grasshoppers. I don't want to eat another grasshopper in my life.
Or goat. Goat was a big one.
Yeah. Goat brains. Ever eaten raw goat brains? And we did that in college. But, so the simplicity is, I think, one of the keys to happiness, mm-hmm. honestly. And they get that over there because they don't really have a choice. But it's a benefit of living small. I mean, one of the happiest times of my life was in college when I was living in a tent in the Sahara Desert. Yeah. And so I do implement that in my life. I have a very small house. I stay close to my kids, and our family is very important. Mm-hmm. Community is very important. We don't overschedule. We don't lust for materialism. We're not keeping up with the Joneses. And I do have a lot of peace from that. That's something I think I learned overseas.
I would agree. I feel like that, my travels kind of taught me the same thing. You don't need all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to remind myself when I'm out there buying all the stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need all this shit.
It's fun for a bit, but
it is, but it doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah. It doesn't satisfy.
I know one of the things that always got me was how excited they were to share, like their gardens or their Dominican bananas, you know, like their fruit, like the community aspect in third world countries is so much different than it is over here. You know, like, you wouldn't think that. I think that was the other thing that surprised me is they really come together as a community to work. And you don't really see that very much in the States.
Yeah. And that can also be a double-edged sword, to be honest, because, you know, they believe things belong to the community. So, you know, they might take your stuff and you might have to give your stuff. And it is a lot more give and take. But they're also, you know, when you need something, they have one chicken left. They're going to give you that one chicken, you know. And so we don't think that way here in the States. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting because you would think that being somewhere where that one chicken could be a week's worth of food for that family, but they'll give it to you without even hesitating. It would be the opposite.
Yeah.
I think we could take a lot, learn a lot from that. I think it's good for anybody. I tell my son this all the time, to go overseas and to see different ways of life in different countries.
Yeah.
Because it opens your eyes up to so very much.
Yeah.
And how little our own little bubbles are.
Yeah. And maybe that some of the things that we're being taught about other countries and and America being number one, and this is the way we need to do things, maybe aren't necessarily true always, you know, and, every country is different. Every country has good and bad to it. And so, you know, just getting to see that is...
Well, let's also talk a little bit about, so you are still Christian today.
Yes.
And are you really involved in a church?
Yes and no. I'm very involved in my relationship with Jesus. Me and him are homies. And
he's my homie too.
He's a good guy. I very much believe in God. He's very real in my life. The spiritual world has remained, you know, pretty apparent to me because I grew up with it so tangible that I can spot it.
Yeah.
You know, that this is from God or this is not.
Yeah. You talk about witchcraft.
Right. Yeah. Literal witchcraft.
Ooh, like literal witchcraft.
Yes. And so, yeah, but yeah, going to church, the modern church these days, there are things about it that bother me. And
I was going to ask you, because that's one of my biggest things, that I didn't like on the missionary side of it and working with just Christian charities. I've worked with Christian charities and then not with others that were just independent. It was very hard to go into places like Bangladesh that's Muslim and tell them, I didn't really understand telling them that their beliefs were wrong. I think that was my hardest problem with the quote unquote missionary side of it. And, what are your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, as a missionary, that's like you were literally over there to have them come to God.
Exactly. Well, my parents were. But for me, I think the problem with that is, saying your beliefs are wrong is you're talking about theology. Your theology's wrong. My theology's right. And true Christianity isn't about theology. It's about relationship with God. Yes. And so until you experience that and he reveals himself to you, they're probably not going to get it. But God works, I'll tell you, in a lot of Muslim countries, he's giving a lot of people visions. A lot of people, I mean, our pastor that was, came to us in Mitiana, where we lived in Uganda, he said there's going to be he had a vision and he met Jesus in his vision. And he said, go ask these people who I am. And that's how he became a Christian and then became the pastor of our church.
Wow, that just gave me chills. That's beautiful.
It happens a lot in Islam, and we don't hear about it a lot because, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, not fashionable, or who knows. But
what a beautiful story to tell, though, because vision's a big thing, and I think God works in all kinds of mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And he shows himself no matter how you see, feel, touch, like hear, the clairs are a big thing.
Yeah.
And so what a beautiful sentiment to your family to see that.
Yeah.
He was told to come and talk to y'all. That says a lot about your family.
Yeah. And my family is not perfect. I mean, there's things that I'm not proud of.
Well, nobody's perfect
too, but yeah, I mean, God used them in that way, and I'm very blessed to be a part of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I have always wondered about the missionary lifestyle is how and where did y'all get your money? Did that come from?
See, now we're getting into the meat of it.
Now we're getting into the meat of it.
Okay. So this is something I have problems with missionaries. And this is one of the things that's hard for me about a lot of missionaries. And I'm just going to tell you honestly, a lot of missionaries are there for a free ride. It is Christian welfare. A lot of missionaries are not doing the right thing. A lot of missionaries are not called by God, but by their own hubris and a sense of adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So for the International Mission Board, which is through the Southern Baptist Convention, all of the Baptist churches give something called the Lottie Moon Mission
Grant,
something like that. So they all take an offering a couple times a year, and that money goes to the missionaries that are Southern Baptist. So that's how my parents did it. So they didn't have to raise funds and go and ask for money, but most missions do go. Yes. Most missionaries will go to each church and tell their story and ask for people to sponsor them. Personally, I have a big problem with that. I believe, first of all, because the way to tell people about Jesus is through relationships with them. And I think it keeps them from that. If you're able to go and get a job in a third world country and make genuine natural relationships through work, I think it's going to be a lot more beneficial and easier to tell them about God once they really know you. Mm-hmm. But just going and trying to walk around a street and tell people about Jesus is not organic. It doesn't really work very well.
Yeah.
And also, you become complacent when people are paying your way. You don't feel like you have to do much, and it's not bringing anything to that country. A lot of Americans have a lot of education that they could be using to lift those countries out of poverty.
Yes.
So.
Yes. One of the things that I did was go around and make sure that international charities and charities were giving for the right reasons and raising their money for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that I saw with missionaries specifically was exactly what you were talking about. It's always a give, but they could never really show what that money was going towards, except for their own thought process. Now, don't get me wrong. I also have a problem with places that I went with Food for the Hungry.
Right.
It too is a give. I was constantly asking people for help to build water and, freshwater things and, helping with agriculture or Bangladesh women in business, which was not a thing 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that when you go with something that helps out their community, it kind of takes away from that give instead of, because that is kind of what they're looking for, and I noticed with Food for the Hungry specifically that these people were coming to God away from the Muslim faith because they were seeing that these people were actually there to help their community. Because over there, it's kind of like a tribal community in the outskirts, especially outside of Dhaka. And I thought that was beautiful, but I've always wondered the church missionary lifestyle where you don't really have an NGO per se that's helping you, how that goes. Because some of those people, you would see them at the bar when you woke
Not
up.
the Southern Baptist, but the other one.
But the quote unquote missionaries, because there's a lot of them in these third world countries.
Yeah, there is.
And they'll send them over there, at a pretty young age, sometimes as young as like 18.
Yep.
And they're walking up and down the path, but then there's ones that are working that are like, you can tell they're there because they want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones who are just lost as can be, and they're sitting there at the bar the whole time. And then when you're going back to the place, because wherever we stayed, at nighttime, I'm sure it's the same with you, everything closes in.
Yeah.
You don't leave.
Yeah.
Your place.
9 o'clock, missionary midnight.
Yes. Yes. You don't leave.
Yeah.
And guards go up, but you would see them at the bar coming back to the house. You know what I mean? So it was a really interesting, aspect of it, because I wasn't really a missionary. I was more in it on the NGO side of it, but you cross the paths of a lot of them. And I've always just been so interested. I'm sure I drive you nuts when we're massaging, because I'm always asking Kaley 150,000 different questions of all kinds of things.
No, you're always welcome for questions.
Well, and my other thing is, with you being so young in it, are your parents still over there, or are they back?
No, they're back. And
will you ever take your kids on a missionary trip like that?
No.
I mean, not to really Rwanda or Uganda or anything like that, but a missionary trip in general. Will that be something that you ever push for your kids as they get into young adulthood?
I'll definitely take them to other countries to learn about other countries and see other cultures. I think that's honestly I think the missionaries benefit more than the people there because of that. And I think that's a valuable thing. But I don't think most mission trips are helping in the ways that are lasting and things that can't be done by the people that live there. So, I mean, some of the mission trips that I've seen that were really impactful was one in South Sudan. Some eye doctors came and gave cataract surgery to the people in the desert, and they rejoiced like no other, and that was life-changing for them, and that was really valuable. But going and building a house for somebody, or I don't know, we hosted a lot of mission trips, and it usually is more about tourism. They'll do their little thing, and then they'll go to the game parks and tour around, raft the Nile, something like that. So
it's kind of like traveling with a purpose is what I always call it. Like we did with Bio, another charity that sport I sat on. It was bringing over 3rd and 4th year dental students to go and do in Dominican Republic free dental care on the different communities. And I think that those are always great because like you said, I think going and doing something like that, volunteering and there's so many organizations that are really, really good at it. I will link a few that I know that are 100% legit.
Mercy Ship. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, yes. Food for the Hungry is good. Bright Island Outreach is good. There's different ones with whatever you're interested in. There's a Costa Rica one that I really like of you go and help with the sea turtles. That would be really cool. That's not really in the missionary lifestyle, but volunteering opportunities. Taking
care of God's creation.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, boom.
Counts. He cares about the turtles.
But I do think that it is important that kids get to see it because we do live in our own bubble.
Yeah.
Now, how has life changed for you dramatically since experiencing it?
When I moved back here, I had huge culture shock. I mean, automatic doors were like, I was like, what is this? I mean, the amount of options I had at Walmart kind of overwhelmed me. Me and my mom had a panic attack trying to pick a toothpaste. It's like, what is this? It's very fast paced here, and it's, I don't know. It's a trade-off. I mean, I don't know if I would say I had a love-hate relationship with the adventure of it all, the danger of it all. Being in danger kind of became my normal.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to learn to not become addicted to that. I had become addicted to it, I think.
To like the fight or flight feeling?
Yeah, just kind of being,
not settled.
Yeah.
Always having to be hypervigilant.
Yeah. I mean, we had to have an armed guard at our house. We had to have a safe room. Like, yeah, there was dark things happening. I would see in the newspaper of child sacrifice in our town and things like that. So it was kind of boring here in some ways. It's different. It was very overwhelming and fast paced, but also mundane. Mm-hmm. The safety of it was mundane, and I've come to really love the safety of it now that I have children, especially.
Yeah.
And just having a quiet, simple lifestyle is a big blessing to me now. Knowing that I don't have to have a safe room. And
what do you think about what's happening with the government with everything from USAID? Because I know USAID was really big over there, so I know that you're familiar.
So I have kind of a different opinion than most Americans do on that. Just because I saw a lot of U.S. aid in South Sudan when I was there. And it's hard because they would deliver rice during the month of starving when it's the last month of the dry season. Uh-huh. But it was like the worst rice, full of rocks that nobody would eat. Mm. And I mean, it was great for our farmers. Our farmers here making the rice, we're making some money. But also, so much aid in Africa is not always a blessing if they're becoming dependent on it. That's
how I felt about Haiti, as you can see what's happened with Haiti.
Yeah, and Haiti used to be the jewel of the world.
Yes.
It had...
I don't think people really understand that either.
It was one of the richest countries.
Yes, the natural gems that come from Haiti are insane.
All of the exports, all of the food, all of the coffee, everything was happening there. And when we start giving them stuff, we give them food, they're not growing that food. It's not growing their economy. Their economy is suffering because of it. And so in the long run, aid kind of cripples a lot of these countries. Mm-hmm. So
I know I've had such a hard time because I don't like the way that they've really put it into the media, because I just don't think like all this aid is going to like drag shows or any of this shit. I never saw that when I was going back and forth. And I did that for quite a long time with quite a few different charities. I never saw anything to that extreme. Not saying it's not there.
It might be new, but
yeah, I've been out of the scene for like 6 years. So who knows? I mean, whatever. But I also had that 50-50 of USAID because I saw how it crippled.
Yeah.
When you give so much, then it kind of turns off their need to do it.
To produce their own. Yeah. Kenya had a booming textile economy. And then we started sending them all these Goodwill leftovers. And nobody had to pay for the textiles. And it tanked their textile market for a long time. Wow. So it does kind of actually keep countries poor. It kind of seems like a tactic to me.
Yeah, it's weird. Government, I feel like these days, everything that's coming out, you're really seeing how government has been used as a tactic. Mm-hmm. And when you are in the missionary lifestyle or in the NGO lifestyle, like, you really see it.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing with the NGOs is, you would have the executive director who would never come to any of these countries making 6 or 7 figures off of donors that you're bringing in from all over the world.
Yeah. I mean, that we saw that with the Hillary Clinton Foundation thing after the Haiti earthquake.
Yeah, yes.
Only 15% of that money ended up.
Yeah, I was over there for that and worked on some water systems for those people, but water systems that had been supposedly already being done. So I won't go into a whole bunch of that bullshit because it just doesn't make a difference, nor do I want to put a target on my head.
Right. Good point.
But agreed with you on that. I loved working for NGOs and charities, and it was something that I loved to do. But now at this time, it's funny. I had a massage right before this, and Kaley was like, how did we even live like that? And I'm like, I don't even know. I feel like I'm a totally different person now than I was 8 years ago. Like, I can only imagine with you living over there for what, 9 years?
Yeah.
Did you come over? Did you go back and forth?
Some, yeah. I'd have to come back. I mean, for certain things. 1 year I had, my parents came back for like counseling and stuff. And it was like a year I was plagued with boils. So I lived with my grandma for a while, trying to get American good antibiotics to calm that down. But some real Job stuff.
Have you ever seen Mean Girls?
Yes. Oh, I came back right after that.
Okay, so
everybody called me Caddy or whatever her name was.
Well, you know what's so funny is that when you talk about some of the stuff that you experience, you know that part in the mall when they're like, when she walks in and they're like all the animals that they're acting like animals, like she saw it like when she was in Africa. Is that how you kind of saw like the mall was the watering hole? You know,
a little bit, yeah. I mean, things are.
What about the animals, though? Tell us about the animals.
So Idi Amin had killed most of the animals in Uganda during the war. They ate them and stuff. And, I mean, there's the Africans would still eat any animal that they came across. I mean, who wouldn't? They're starving. You can't blame them. But so the animals are mostly in the game parks other than monkeys. The baboons are kind of in a lot of places.
Were you by the gorillas?
No, I was.
Was that more up in the mountains?
Yeah, it was up in the mountains near Rwanda. I was probably 8 hours away. But we drove up there one time. It's
beautiful
but we didn't
country,
see them.
though.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's very fertile. I mean, they live in mud huts because they can live in mud huts. You don't
have
need
to worry about AC and
insulation or anything. You can sleep outside. I did sleep outside a lot of the time, and I'd hitchhike around South Sudan and just sleep in the dirt whenever it got dark, it's just
talk about being open to energy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this because I asked you about this. How did you transfer coming back, getting married, becoming a massage therapist?
I didn't know what I wanted to do for college. And I was always massaging my mom's neck because in Uganda we were driving on those roads all the time with enormous potholes and my mom had neck damage. And so her neck always hurt. And she said, hey, you're good at this. You don't have any money for college really, other than that 1 year I did that overseas program. I got back and I was like, okay, I'm out of money. And
sorry guys, my dog's barking. It's the joys of being on the porch.
So anyway, massage therapy was something I could work through and obtain pretty easily and start making money. So,
Cookie, sorry guys. Oh my goodness, Cookie. This is my fans. Sorry that y'all had. She's like. She's letting Kaley know that our neighbors are coming out of their house. Cookie.
It's okay.
Well, this is real life. Okay. What were we talking about? Goodness. She got me all distracted.
How I became a massage therapist.
So what? What were we talking about?
How I became a massage therapist.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to that.
Yes. So I think I said it though. Any next questions?
I got distracted. You can't distract me. I've had 2 ADHD. Like, squirrel. Well, do you think that you will do anything else, or you think you're going to stay a massage therapist? And here's a good question for you, because I asked you this earlier. How do you protect your energy? Because one of the biggest things, and I'm asking this because like I told you earlier, one of the biggest things with me with Reiki is I felt like I picked up, like I had a really tough time separating. And
yes.
It's just me. It is what it is. But how do you do yours? Because you have so many different people with so much different energy, and I know how open you are. So how do you cut that off?
A lot of prayer. And honestly, I think that's why God put me in this position, is because there's really not any other situation in life where someone can lay their hands on you and pray for you for good to happen in your life and for blessing. you know, and so I think that's what God uses me for. And
so do you think that it has, that you do kind of laying on of the hands?
Yeah, I mean, like,
I think you do.
I'm not like a pastor or anything like that, but yeah.
No, but I think your hands are magical.
There's there's something about touching people and praying for them that I think is meaningful. Sure.
That's awesome.
So that's how I use it, and if God puts me in a different position to do something else one day, I'm open to that too. But
well, you are I just love you all the way around.
Oh, I love you too.
But if you need a massage therapist and you're in the Glen Rose area, do you want to shout out like how they can book you?
I mean, I'm pretty booked right now.
Never mind, she's too booked. She doesn't want any new clients.
I'm having trouble keeping up with everybody right now.
Never mind, she's really too booked because you're not getting my step. Man, we'll circle back.
That's what all of my regulars say. They're like, I can't get in, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to say no sometimes.
I know, that's why she's one of those that like when she leaves my house, we have an ongoing appointment. Like I'm already on the schedule for the next.
Yes.
Well, thank you for getting on with me.
Yeah.
I really think it's an interesting perspective, not only to the missionary lifestyle, but like just the transformation of going from third world over here. And I always like talking about it because I just don't have a lot of people that really understand it.
Yeah.
And, you know.
I don't either.
I mean, you can't really describe it to anybody if they haven't been there because, I mean, it's something you have to experience.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It is complicated. It is complicated. All right, guys, join us next week for, I think it's Porch Time with Paige.
Nice.
Whoop, whoop. And thanks for listening to Get Enlightened with me, Lauren Scott.